Child development has been studied for decades, with multiple different ideas and concepts which all either contradict or complement one another. Today we'll be focusing on development from birth to 14 years of age, with reference to the physical, cognitive, and social domains of development, which I'll just quickly outline now. Physical development. Often our minds jump straight to growth or how fast we can run and how high we can throw a ball, which is mostly right. However, physical development can be defined as the systematical changes that occur within our bodies that allow us to develop fine and gross motor skills, participate in activity, and develop through healthy stages as a human. So this includes the most obvious of changes, puberty. Cognitive development, simply put, revolves around our mind. It is the process in which we develop mature thought, problem-solving skills, critical thinking. It is how we process information and concepts. There are two main theorists in this domain, that is Piaget and Vygotsky, both of which I'll touch upon throughout each age group. Both of these theorists believe that our cognitive development is influenced by our social forces. Humans are social beings and rely on others to develop their own self. Social development revolves around the relationships a child forms with others and the skills they gain by doing so, whereas emotional development focuses more so on a child's ability to respond appropriately to situations and express their emotions in a productive way. One main theorist I'll focus on with social and emotional development is Erikson, and I'll explain his ideas surrounding each stage as it comes along. Birth to 3 months. This falls into Piaget's sensory motor stage, which covers birth to 2 years old, which states that during this stage, babies use simple reflections to communicate with the world. So that's simple reflections such as rooting, which is to turn their head towards something that touches them, sucking when something touches their mouth, and show signs of stepping when held with their feet touching to the floor. Cognitively, everything is learnt through the environment and a baby's direct interaction with the world, as they are predominantly using their senses to learn. In terms of language, babies will begin to make cooing noises at around 1 month. Socially and emotionally, everything revolves around the carers and their responses to the baby's cries. 3 to 6 months moves on to what is known as first habits and primary circular reaction within Piaget's sensory motor stage. This is when the infant begins to combine separate actions into one activity, in which they tend to repeat these actions. Physically, they are now able to hold their head up and begin to be more active, moving with purpose. Cognitive development at this age, although is still in the sensory motor stage, has come a long way, and babies are now able to recognize familiar faces whilst imitating emotions and facial expressions. The social network at this stage still mainly consists of parents and carers, and a strong bond will become evident through signs of laughter and joy. During this stage, physical development has rapidly increased as children begin to crawl, sit, and may attempt standing. Cognitively, children are able to interact with their environment and begin to develop an understanding for language. An infant at this stage will have developed a range of emotions in which they will likely be able to show via body language and noises. So now we're hitting the 1 year mark. There will have been some major overall development since birth. Early infancy consists of the most drastic developmental changes versus any other stage. Physically, a child will be standing or beginning to take their first steps. Cognitively, we are now in the coordination of secondary circular reactions according to Piaget's theory. This is where the child will develop goal-directed behaviour and object permanence. Looking at Erikson's psychosocial theory, which is titled Trust versus Mistrust, this all links down to the bond shown between carers and the child and whether that child feels that they have stable relationships. 1 to 2 years now, we've moved into what is known as infancy. Physically, we can see now that the motor skills have begun to flourish, grabbing, walking, running. Cognitively, children will be able to begin to predict scenarios and create thought outside their immediate environment. This is also around the stage where language skills begin to develop. Emotionally, children will now have a few more feelings that they are able to show, such as shyness, uncertainty, fear. This all comes as consequence to also being quite curious and wanting to explore. So this is where Erikson's theory of autonomy versus shame and doubt comes into play. It is whether or not the child is placed in an environment where exploration and curiosity is praised or punished. Early childhood, or the ages 2 to 6, is a huge development jump. Physically, children are able to complete more complex fine and gross motor skills, stuff that usually takes greater patience. Cognitively, a child is now able to communicate to an understandable level, although may not emotionally know their feelings clearly and may have difficulties expressing their thoughts. Piaget refers to this age group as the pre-operational stage, where, to put it simply, children believe that they are at the centre of their world. At this time, children begin to be more self-aware, and self-esteem plays a major role in their development. As Erikson's theory for the stage suggests, making friendships during this time or becoming rejected plays a major role in one's overall development. Middle childhood, or the ages 6 to 10 years, physically children begin to develop at different rates, and specific biological and environmental factors become more evident, so height, weight, athleticism. At this age, children also begin to form the basis of logical thought and are capable of categorizing their ideas and emotions. So this falls under Piaget's concrete operation stage, which highlights the decentering of the child from their world. They socially begin to compare themselves to others, which becomes quite important to one's sense of self, something in which Erikson supports during this industry versus inferiority stage. 10 to 14, or the early adolescent years, is when all development domains are quite diverse and no two children will be identically experiencing the same things. Puberty is the most obvious change during this time. This will occur at different ages and rates for all children, but mostly consists of the same changes based on gender. During this time, children are able to think scientifically and conceptualize abstract thought. This formal operation stage, according to Piaget, is the final stage and continues to develop as we age. Positive relationships form an important part on how we view our own identity at this stage and offer support for emotional development, although at this age children feel more inclined to remain in control of their own emotions. Lastly, diversity. Diversity is important when discussing development. Although theorists categorize development into distinct age groups, this isn't always the case for everyone. External factors such as the environment, cultural differences, parenting style, economic status all will have an impact on how a child develops. So someone who grows up in a high income versus a single parent rural family won't develop at the same rate. As a teacher, it is crucial to remember this when providing a high standard of care and creating a learning environment that caters to all. Understanding where a child is at with their development can not only help determine the level of work that may need to be adapted, but can also help understand a child's emotions, well-being, and learning capacity. Thank you.